I turn on the mic down there? How come I don't see any picture?
Maybe you didn't push the right button. I'm sorry, I'm just picking, Sean.
No, that's okay. I should see a picture. We had a picture earlier today.
Yeah, that would be nice.
I do not see anything.
Is that turned on over here?
I'm going over it. It wasn't on earlier. No, it is not on. Oh, power cord's up.
I guess if somebody wondering what's going on. and
It's Carrie.
Okay, she's probably at the door.
Yeah.
I agree.
Yeah, apparently somehow the power cord popped up.
You ever get,
Heaven knows.
you ever pull these up on your computer? One time. 51 pages long.
Okay.
Well, now it's-
You have reached the top.
I don't know. It's-
Please enter your PIN followed by the pound.
Okay, finally,
Yeah, this thing is slow.
we're all set. We had a little video issue. We got that fixed. We're all ready to roll.
Those will be sent today.
Okay, just so we can have attendance, would each person please state their name for this planning board, I'm sorry, town board workshop.
Tom McCabe present.
Margaret Swan, present.
Lynn Hill present.
Carrie Richardson, present.
And Sean Pogue, present. Okay, purpose for tonight is to review, just to go over the solar law change recommendations that were presented to us by the planning board at our last board meeting. We go through them now so that we can, at our board meeting next week, just go ahead and vote on it. So everybody received electronic copies? Go ahead, I'm listening.
I just had a question as far as, so, the public hearing is prior to the town board meeting,
Correct?
and we can vote on it immediately following the public hearing,
To send it, not to vote on accepting it,
but to send it out.
to send it to county only.
Okay.
That's all.
And then I do have one other question, that I was just thinking about. The planning board is also working on the solar law for storage and battery storage. I was just curious for financial purposes, if, you know, because I know that like Lance is looking over this stuff and having the public hearing and like all of these other, we should do it together or.
They're two separate things altogether. Because storage units don't have to be just for solar, they could be for
For the
wind
wind.
energy as well.
Right.
So it's two separate things altogether.
And then one other question, not about the local law, but I'm noticing that gas wireless is not up on my computer as an option to connect to.
What is it? Gary?
Should,
The internet,
we had last week with the winds and so on, we had a power outage when I was here that lasted about 15 seconds. And then something happened later where internet connection in this part of the building went down. And they came in and put a new switch in this morning. They had to order one up and they came in this morning, put a new switch in. Otherwise, the phone's in here, the
Right.
YouTube, nothing worked because we didn't have internet in here.
I'm just, nothing, the only thing that's coming up is my cell phone internet and then the town wireless, but not the, oh, there it is, now the hotspot's coming up. It was my computer, sorry,
Okay,
sorry.
Well, I know too, Carrie, this computer here is slower to down.
Okay, so good to know.
okay. Now, Lee had sent out this morning because what I sent to you was, I told you you had the original local law on our website. I sent out the recommended changes that we received from the planning board. I also believe I sent you what Lance's comments were for his recommended changes. And then today, Lee worked over the weekend and she compiled Lance's recommendations, the planning board recommendations, all in with the latest copy that's titled Proposed Local Law Number 2 of the year 2021. And in that, she had crossed out sections that were to be removed, and in red, just as what the planning board said us, what would be included. So
So we're going over this, right?
does that have,
It says, yeah, it says number
Local
2.
I think Lee ran off a copy and put it in your mailbox.
With me.
Yeah, okay, sure. Just wanna make sure that that's enough paper here.
Okay, the ones that we got hard copies on, Sean, don't have the changes in them, right?
If it says proposed local law 2,
Of 2021,
yes,
yeah.
that's got all the changes in it. Cross out,
Because I've had this for over a week. It's got the red and stuff in it and everything else. I just want to make sure I've got the right one.
well, Lee said she'd worked on it over the weekend there, so I assumed, maybe she did it sooner, I don't know.
Okay. Well, if I get lost on it, we'll pull on something up so we can follow.
Now, I know like you just got this copy, but you've had the other ones for a while. Are there any questions or any specific areas? I think what the planning board has put in here, their recommendations, I agree with. I think they look pretty good.
Okay, because they sent us a cover letter here
Yeah.
with their changes attached and everything. We put those
Yeah,
on.
that should have been attached to this.
Okay.
Proposed solar law changes 2021. And that was, I put on here town board, planning board.
I have a question on the first definition. Alternative energy system.
Mhm.
It says that alternative energy structures, equipments, devices, or construction techniques used for the production of heat, light, cooling, electricity, or other forms of energy on site and which may be attached to or be separate from the principal structure. Is that the term that they use in the industry? It just, like, to me, when I alternative energy systems, it's the whole system, and it could be solar, it could be wind, it could be hydro, it could be any form, and it's not like, it just doesn't seem like that is the appropriate wording for the definition. It just, to me, and I could be just wrong, just,
Well, it's not, no changes recommended to that. But yeah, I see what you're saying there, but it does cover the production of heat, light, cooling, electricity, or other forms of energy on site. So like you're saying, hydro, could be solar, could be wind, the production of those topics. Maybe attached.
Or construction techniques. I guess the weird part for me is like the construction technique. Doesn't seem like that should be part of systems.
Construction equipment, devices, and construction techniques.
Well, as part of the construction, I'm assuming.
Yeah, but if you're referencing like a alternative energy systems, I would say the operation, but the construction of it, it just seems odd to me. And I could be wrong. It just seems like it's a
Okay,
weird.
how would you reword it, Karen?
I would just take out or construction techniques. The structures, equipment, or devices used for the production of heat, light, cooling, electricity, or other forms of energy on site which may be attached to or be separate from the principal structures.
Isn't Mr. Keeler on that planning board?
Yeah.
Wouldn't he have taken that out if it wasn't? If it wasn't?
They're on. Were we supposed to
I
turn
got
these
Wes
off?
right now. Wes responded.
Okay.
That's Wes, I'm calling you, answer.
Do we need to turn these phones on?
Hello, Wes.
Yeah, I just told them.
Wes, you put me on hold. Now you took your earplug out so you can't hear me.
I think he may have been on the call this way.
He was listening.
Yeah.
No, that light flashes all the time on there.
Okay.
Wes. Okay, let me try calling him back.
Hello?
Hi, can you hear me now?
I can. I had my headphones on, so I was getting feedback and then I had to shut them off, so.
Okay, well, I've got you on speaker in here.
Okay,
And obviously you were listening to the conversation about that definition.
right. I believe why it's encompassing all of that is because it's in the definition section. It's only defining everything that's involved in that. In that term.
So the term itself does include construction techniques?
It can, yeah, because there's a variety of construction techniques involved in all of those, each of those. Alternative energy.
Okay, I
So,
mean, it's not used anywhere else in our ordinance, like we don't actually use that term, but it just, alternative energy systems, I don't know, maybe, hold on, let me see.
So in other words, for some of the construction techniques, they might use solar panels for charging up, recharging some of their equipment
Yes.
while they have construction going on of the system.
Well, that and it's just encompasses the whole thing because there's a variety of construction techniques that would be used in different types of solar or in different types of geothermal or wind or whatever.
It's just covering the bases, that's all it's doing.
I don't know.
Okay.
It can be taken out. It was in there, I believe, to encompass all portions of doing that.
Okay.
Okay. We're good.
Okay.
Yep, thank you, Wes.
I'll go back to listening in.
Okay, bye-bye.
Bye.
I think the planning board did a good job going through all of this.
I do have another question, but it's not till page 7, so.
You got page numbers?
I'm looking on my computer, so I can see what page it is. It's 315-119. Utility scale solar energy systems, with the exception of that.
Which number?
It's actually just the title itself.
It was 350-119.
Yeah. So it says utility scale solar energy systems with exception of setbacks. But then we have setbacks in here. In that, so section H is setbacks. So like if I'm reading that header, I'm thinking, okay, this is gonna be information on the USS ESs, but the setbacks are gonna be in a different area.
So in other words, instead of with exception, including setbacks, is what you're saying.
I guess I'm not sure why that's added in there.
Okay, Wes, I'm gonna call you back again. Get unplugged.
With exceptions, even if-
Right.
Hello? Hello?
Yes, Wes.
Hey, so I missed, Tom is supposed to be on too, so he's trying to get in here, but I missed part of the conversation on what,
The
What that
question
was.
brought up is for 350-119.
okay?
The original title was Utility Scale Solar Energy Systems Uses.
Yes,
And then that was added to it in red says, with exception of setbacks. And then when you go down to letter H, that has to do with setbacks. So the question was, with exception of setbacks, it's like it's supposed to be its own separate entity. But yet here it is under H. So it's just the wording here in the title
all right.
is what is being questioned.
I don't have the document in front of me, and I'm drawing a blank on that right now. I don't recall. Sorry, guys.
You will be.
That's all right.
Lance, do you happen to be on the phone? Lance?
That may have been him hanging up from listening to Colin.
That was Wes just hung up just now. Yeah, with exception of setbacks. Uses with exception of setbacks. Setbacks is in H.
Wasn't there some question on small solar? And this larger one as far as setbacks are concerned.
This is what the other one was on the small one, isn't it? On 2 parcels.
Yeah,
The exception of setbacks will be this uses is, commercial, and the other one was not commercial, it's home use. That's what I
So-
remember.
okay, so it's a difference between commercial, even if it's above or below 25 megawatts, but it's the home residential use versus commercial use.
So it's exception and setbacks are home use.
Okay,
If I remember correctly.
Yeah, I remember him saying that too, talking about it.
So I guess I'm still confused. And so this section is only in regards to industrial use. I mean, I see that it's utility scale, so they're saying that this is utility scale only, except for, but the setbacks is utility and home use? Because it would be all of these sections. I guess it's,
yeah, I see what you're talking about. Uses is all commercial.
right. But the setbacks that are listed here, it still says it's any utility scale structures, like it even has USSES in parentheses, shall adhere to the following setbacks measured to any solar dedicated structure.
Does it say, I'm looking real quick. Does it say anything in here about residential use? I don't think it does. I don't spot it.
So
It looks like everything that's described in here is all commercial.
yeah, so but I mean, right, I don't see any differentiation for residential.
Maybe with the exception of residential setbacks?
But I think there should still be setbacks for residential if necessary. I mean, I don't know. I know we have residential solar projects. I know they have to be approved.
Excuse me, but somebody that's called in on the phone there that is able to talk with us, you need to mute your phone or something. There's a lot of background info. Thank you. And I say info because we don't need to hear what Mike said. Okay. Tom or Wes, if you're on the line there, if you could, whereabouts is it for residential setbacks? Is that completely separate from this? Utility, solar, safety. Penalties for offenses, no. There we go, requirements for small scale or solar freestanding and ground mounted. So 350-117 is residential.
Yeah, and it just says that as far as setbacks there, it says on number 2, the location of a ground mounted or freestanding solar collector shall comply with the setback requirements for accessory buildings as set forth in Berrytown Code. So, I mean, that makes sense, doesn't it?
In that part, yeah.
Right. So I don't think that it would be separate for
So I don't know why it would say that, with the exception of setbacks.
Right.
Lance, are you on the line? He must be tied up. He said he would be, but he must be tied up with something.
So we got in 350-15, we addressed small scale, so, right?
Right.
So I don't know why that exception there, because I think this whole thing pertains to commercial
Right. Right.
lines, so I may agree, Terry, I don't know why that would be, have to be put in there with exceptions of setbacks.
Yeah. I don't know why that's in there. Tom didn't, or not Tom, I mean Wes didn't, know why that was put in there. And I'm looking at Lance's notes of recommendations he had, he did not put that in there. Or recommend it to be put in there. So I honestly don't know. I think we could. I think we could possibly, unless Lance jumps in here, we could scratch that out. You
Right.
feel comfortable with that?
I guess I feel I would like to just like make sure that there wasn't something more behind it that the planning board was
Yeah.
expecting. So, assuming that,
Put a big
if,
question mark.
Tom and Wes both say, we looked it over and we're not sure, it could have just been added in accidentally or something.
Okay, anything else?
My next question is on F, and I know, sorry, F on that same, the setback,
Okay,
where that addition is, so it's under 350-119H, then F.
F as in Frank.
Yep. So it says where there are two or more contiguous parcels that have a USSEF lease agreement, setbacks requirement shall not apply for contiguous property lines between such parcels. Should we have anything in there? I know that we've talked about this before, and I've shared that my concerns with that, mainly that we have a project on the table, the solar law is new, and we're changing this kind of in the interest of the developer. I do understand the business reasoning behind it. I do see where this is, where there could be other projects that have the same thing. But do we want to put like a sunset clause or something in here?
That upon the decommissioning of the project, that it would return to the original.
Yeah, or should for some reason, like somehow one parcel come out of lease and the other one wants to stay in or whatever, that they have to then follow the setback, so they would have to remove some of the arrays or whatever is too close to that line. I don't know how that would be worded,
Yeah,
or
I
how
know.
to.
And I don't know what they've got in their lease, the two parties would agree.
Right, like if they're, but that's the thing is that we don't know. And so that would be my like kind of compromise, like, okay, so we put this in here and it should be that it shouldn't end up being an issue. But because we don't know what's in the lease, this way it's covered either way.
And also, okay, so the two I put down that I'll check into is what if property is sold and new owner wishes to get out of the lease. So they wanna say, forget it. Once again, because we don't know what the leases say,
Right,
so we have no idea.
they may be bound that they can't. one
Can't do
jump
it
out of the other one,
Right.
and-
But they
The
also-
person buying the property has to know upfront, that the lawyers involved should make it very clear that you can't get out. That's depending on the lease though.
Right, and so, and because this is our law, not specific to any project, we don't know what leases will say in the future either.
Exactly. And the other thing is reverting back upon decommission.
Right.
Okay, at least the wording for that.
Right.
Anything else?
Let's see.
On this one, of course.
Hey, Sean, is there anything here on
Decommissioning.
decommissioning?
I'm sorry?
Yes, there is, it's, decommissioning is, that 350-119 L.
No.
Oh,
Oh,
here,
okay. I got the wrong page here. Here it is.
yeah, here.
Oh, back here.
And I have a question on this one.
Yeah, there we go.
Number 4 on the decommissioning.
I had a little concern with this based on what Lance had, his recommendation. One of Lance's recommendations in here is this provision should also provide for the applicant to provide proof of compliance with a bond requirement upon request of the town. And that should be inserted just before the last sentence, which is in red, the decommissioning plan. So, wait a minute.
Wait, so that's
No,
not in here, that is in here?
it's not in there. It's not in there. That was a recommendation Lance had made. I called him about that only because it's a whole sentence and it was not covered in here at all, and it concerned me a little bit. So I asked him, and he said for a little CYA, that, that's something we should put in there.
Okay,
And that would be between that black sentence that starts all expenses or costs, and before the red, the decommissioning plan shall be reduced. So that sentence, once again, this provision should also provide for the applicant to provide proof of compliance with a bond requirement upon request of the town. So we can request it at any time.
wait. Shouldn't we have, but wouldn't the bond be in our, like, wouldn't we have control of the bond the whole time anyways?
We're supposed to have control of the bond, yes. But it's provide compliance
Okay,
to make sure that they are in compliance with it, that it has all been renewed and
okay,
up to snuff.
okay, so, alright. I had a question, kind of along those lines before that section, and could you send that to us, or I guess we get the updated version?
I thought I did send it out to you, but I will be more than happy to do it.
Where we have in here, for the life of the utility scale solar energy, this is, decommissioning 4. The same one that Sean was just talking about. the middle section in between the two strikeout areas, it says for the life of the utility scale solar energy system, the applicant or its successors or assigns shall continuously maintain a bond or other appropriate form of financial security that is acceptable to the town and payable to the town in an amount, unless such amount is otherwise established or required by New York State laws or regulations. So I'm not sure in an amount. I feel like that's that's a weird ending. Like there should be in an amount of something. In an amount of 125% of the decommissioning costs or whatever.
Well, they do cover that
Well,
in
that's
red.
in the
Follow
red.
that.
Right, so
They're
then
covering that.
then we're having some grammatical issues then. Because like it says then it's a period in a capital, like a brand new sentence. And then and I think that we should be able to stretch out. I don't think that we should have unless such amount is otherwise established or required by New York State laws or regulations. I think that we need to assert that this is our town, this is our home rule, these are our laws. This is the expectation. If there is a state law or something else, like I feel like we're just giving the permission for the state to say, hey, you only have to have 50%, or you only have to have whatever number, in there. I feel like if we feel like this is an appropriate and fair
Yeah, you could.
amount, then I think that it's unnecessary for us to have the state law information in there, because if it does usurp it, it'll usurp it whether we have that in there or not. And by putting it in there, we're pretty much just saying, yeah, whatever the state says, we go along with, instead of saying, you know what, state, like, hey, we have this law for a reason, and this is our town, and this is what we put in here. If you can't abide by this, then we need to have a conversation, and then negotiations can go from there.
That was Lance that just called me. He's gonna be getting him. In fact, that's probably him right now.
All right, Sean, I'm on.
Okay. Hello, Lance.
Hello.
Sean, I'm on too. It's Tom Keeler. I'm sorry. I didn't realize the meeting was at 5.
Oh, that's okay. Thank you for calling in then, Tom.
Yep.
Carrie was just talking about right now on 350-119 L4. L is in Lincoln, which is the decommissioning, the bond. And she was questioning about otherwise established or required by New York State laws or regulations, whether we needed that in there or not.
Yeah, I think you do, only because of the fact that, if it's an ORS-sized project, then they're gonna determine ultimately what that bond is gonna be, I think.
But Lance, if we didn't have that in there, that same process would still occur. And if
Yeah, it doesn't matter, you're right, it's just saying, it's just recognizing the reality, that's all.
But by recognizing that reality, would we be saying, so if ORS comes through and says that for 25 or plus megawatt projects that you a decommissioning cost of 50% is required, unless otherwise stated in your local law, if we just put in there that we're saying right in our law that unless if the state says there's another amount, we're willing to go with that other amount. And I don't think that that's wise for our community.
Really, that's fine, I don't think it's a big argument, so you can take out that language if you find it troublesome.
Okay.
Okay,
We'll just
then.
remove it.
For life utility uses, the applicant or successors are assigned shall continuously maintain a bond or other appropriate form of financial security is acceptable to the town and payable to the town in an amount Okay, so that's where the question comes in an amount.
Right.
Of what?
Well, we say in the following sentence, 125% of the decommissioning cost.
Yeah, you could move that just period and then move the red up into that.
Is that what the intent was? I'm
let's-
good with that.
I
as
think
long as
so.
that's what the
The
intent was.
town and payable to the town, period. Cross out in an amount unless such amount is otherwise established or required by New York state laws or regulations. Then we go into the next sentence, the bond shall be maintained during the life of the project at 125% of the decommissioning cost.
Yep, I'm good with that.
How's that?
We just
That's-
like that whole,
Mhm. From here,
Okay,
and then all of this can go.
the inclusion of Lance's sentence right there. Well, we got you on both Tom and Lance. Question we had back. Okay, going back to 350-119, letter F, as in Frank, HF. HF. Where there are two or more contiguous parcels that have a uses lease agreement, setback requirements shall not apply for contiguous property lines between such parcels. The question here was, what if, because we don't know what the leases are going to say in them, to the property owners. So what if one property owner, after about 10 years, decides to sell his parcel, his or her parcel, and the new owner says, well, I don't want to have these solar panels on my property. What happens then? When we, like I said, we don't know what the leases have to say. Is the present
leases are gonna
owner
be longer
and
than
sequential
10
owners?
years, they're gonna be 25-year leases for sure, and probably extendable for another 15 years from what I've seen.
Mhm.
A property owner just can't say, I don't want them anymore. I mean, they're in violation of the lease at that point.
What about the new property owner?
The new property owner takes subject to the lease. These leases are recorded, and the new property owner takes subject to them.
Okay.
So, but there have been occasions already, even in our community, where what if they do figure out a way, or they do get out of the lease? The thought process is that because we don't know what the leases actually say, or what leases will say in the future, to just add a sunset clause, or, if one of the leases were to end, that the requirement, for setback from property lines would be reinstated, just that they would have to, abide by the 50 feet from any property line, and remove those arrays or those panels.
Whatever. I don't think that's realistic, but if that's what makes everybody happy, so be it.
Well, I got it. I think through the years of discussions on these leases, the property
think that
itself
after 10
is
years-
bound.
That the project is gonna say, oh, sure, no problem. You wanna break the lease, we'll break the lease, and we'll pull up all these solar panels. I mean, it's just that's not reality, but like I said, if that's what makes people happy, fine, put it in there.
But even like Lance, hypothetically, if it's at the end of the lease, so say that it goes to the 30 years, okay, say the lease hypothetically is 30 years, and one person decides one parcel decides they want to re-up it, and the other parcel says, no, we're done, we want to use it for some other purpose.
That's not the way the leases read. I've seen a lot of these leases. It's not up to the property owner. Those leases have a term, and then they have extensions at the discretion of the developer, not at the property owner.
So then are you saying that to cover us as a town, like I understand that what you're saying, I just feel like it just would, I guess I don't understand, like, I understand where you're saying that you've seen a lot of these leases and that's your experience. I just guess that I'm curious as to why that would be, then why would it be problematic to put that in there? Just as like an extra security or safety for,
Like I said, if it makes everybody happy, do it. It's not as far as I'm concerned, it's not a deal breaker, deal maker, or whatever.
Yeah, I think that with the signing of the lease, I'm sure it is pretty much in their ironclad that will not be able to occur. That lease is gonna follow through to the next owner and to the next owner, and they're gonna have to abide by it. Otherwise,
course.
why buy the property? I mean, if
course.
I wanted to farm the land, grow agriculture, I'm not about to buy the land if it's tied up for the next 20 years with solar panels on it, because I can't farm it.
but if you're thinking, okay, I'm going to buy this land, I'm gonna allow them to go out through the end of this lease, 30 years, the lease ends, and then I have the option of renewing or not renewing. I choose not to renew because I choose that I'm gonna farm it at that point in time. I'm gonna do whatever X, Y, or Z.
I think.
I got a
I would say,
comment on that too.
Out of the
I don't have
option
to
of the
sure.
landowner. I just got done saying that.
Right.
I'm sure that lease is written so that if you want to get out of it, it's going to cost you more than your property's even worth.
I understand that. What I'm trying to, like, what I,
Well, let's hold on a second. Tom, you said you had something to say?
Yeah, what I was gonna say was, if the lease expires, 30-year term expires, and one of the property owners decides that they don't want to continue the lease, then the applicant would have to go back to the town and reapply for his special use permit, because it's a modification of the special use permit, and the new setbacks would be required because no contiguous property exists in that location.
Okay. That's one thing I was gonna ask about with this as well, is with the wording there, we talk about shall not apply for contiguous property lines between such parcels. Should another sentence be added in there stating that upon decommissioning, that the properties would be returned, or that, just so it's spelled out, return to the original setbacks as per the town code?
Well, upon decommissioning, they're gonna be removed.
Okay. So
Or the
there's no
panels are
need
gonna be
to,
removed.
so there's no need to say it whatsoever then? Okay. Okay, and Tom, you said that would be, they would have to come back and apply with a SUP then? The applicant would?
That would be my interpretation. You agree with that, Lance?
I had it on mute, yes.
Okay.
yeah, I'm fine with that as long as there is something that establishes that. So that's fine.
Well, I think that goes back to our town codes, and it is established that if they withdraw and the other one continues, that they would have, the applicant would have to apply for an SUP for that area,
It'd be a modification, so it'd be a new.
modification of the SUP. Okay, at the very top there, 350-119, gentlemen, there was included at the end of the uses title, it says, with exceptions to setbacks. Now, Lee came in and informed us that that was because of private owned, not commercial, but private. And you do have already in 350-117 requirements for small scale solar, which is for residential. Are they not?
That's correct. Trying to remember why we had that, John.
Yeah, Wes was on the line and he said he couldn't remember why that was inserted either. And I looked at Lance's notes and that wasn't a recommendation from Lance from what I can see either. So that's the question we have right now. Why, it's like a question at the end of the title.
Yeah, I'm not coming to mind why we had that, right now. I'm sorry, I can't recall that, Sean.
Lance, there's no need for that to be there, is there?
Where are you looking at? What provision now?
It's 350-119 uses. It's right after uses, there was included with exception of setbacks. So it's like, why was that added on? If Lee had said that it was because of the small scale solar, which is in 350-117. So why was that thrown on for large scale uses or for commercial solar versus residential solar? I mean, by the looks of it,
That was added not by me. I don't know.
no,
I don't know what was intended there.
nobody seems to understand why, and I think we can scratch that off.
I would.
Don? Was there something else, everybody?
This is Wes Miller kicking in. So, can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
Okay. You know why we put that on there? I'm reading it right now. With exception of setbacks was added because we added the line at the bottom. Where there are two or more contiguous parcels that have uses lease agreements in HS that was just discussed. That line, with exception of setbacks, was added to that title because of that statement in HF of 119.
Is there really a need for that?
I don't, not my call, but I'm just saying, I know why that was added now. I don't see it.
You can take out the exception of setbacks because that clause F stands by itself.
Yes. Don, did you say something?
No, I should,
Oh, okay.
basically the same thing, scratch that, and this other one's addressing it, right?
Yeah, yeah. Okay. Then there was another statement that I was wondering about. On, where is that? I would separate the last sentence. Where did I write that? Oh, here it is. Okay, last page, very end, in the red. 350-123 host agreement. The last two sentences where it starts, the town shall require any applicant to enter into an escrow agreement to pay the engineering and legal costs of any application review, including the review required by seeker. All such fees shall be negotiated and determined prior to the approval and issuance of a special use permit. Taking those two sentences, this was a recommendation from Lance once again, and making that a separate section. In other words, make that 350-124.
Can we have it be, oh yeah, no, that's fine.
It's completely separate from the host community
Yeah.
agreement. And call it engineering and legal costs. It'd just be those two sentences.
I have one question on that one as well.
Okay,
The way that we have this worded is saying that they are required to enter into a host community agreement, rather than the option of having them pay taxes. I know that we want to opt out of 487. I just am wondering, and I know a majority of them are going to be host agreements. But I don't know why we would just take that off the table, because you would be giving a tax break by doing a host community agreement. And so why we would say that they are all have to enter into a host community agreement, rather than giving us the option of saying, as like the town board or future town board, saying that you can pay taxes or do a.
You can't opt in and opt out at will. You have to opt out as part of the legislation, which is what we did. And the way these things work is that as far as a host community agreement, the amount of the host community agreement can equal but not exceed what the taxable assessment would be.
Okay.
But you can't just say, I'm giving you the option, or we have the option of either going taxable or non or exempt. It doesn't work that way in the law.
Okay, so that clarifies it for me, because I didn't realize that the HCA could go up to the full taxable amount.
okay.
The HCA itself can, Lance, I'm sorry, I just want to make sure that I'm understanding that correctly. Like,
The HCA agreement, the amount that's recoverable by the town under the agreement can equal but not exceed the tax assessment amount.
and then there's nothing about pilot in this one?
No. Quite frankly, I think from the standpoint of the town, you're just better off with a host community agreement rather than going through a pilot. Because, there are two kinds of pilots. There's a town pilot, and that only lasts for 15 years. Or if you do a pilot through the IDA, it can be longer, but there's considerable cost involved. So the HCA is basically for the life of the project.
And so then, and then the county and the school and everybody else would just be on their own?
Lance?
Yes, that's right.
They negotiate separate. We're mostly worried about our town, that's it.
I don't know, my taxes, the majority of them are not from the town.
Yeah, I know.
The majority of them are from the other components, and so
School district.
we can reduce, the school district is about 50%, so if we can reduce some of the other areas too, I wouldn't be opposed to that.
Okay, anything else on the laws? On the law, I'll have Lee do some modifications here from what we had talked about. And get another copy out to you once again with the crossed out sections as well as the red inserted sections, okay?
Mhm.
Okay, I'll take all the nods as
Yeah.
yes,
Yeah,
everybody,
sorry.
those of you just listening. I wasn't nodding, so you didn't hear the rocks rattling. Okay. That takes care of the discussing the solar law for tonight then. And the other part that Lee sent out to you was part 2 of the impact assessment as well as part 1. Of the seeker, part 1 and part 2 of the seeker.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Go
This
ahead.
brings up I was thinking about it with the seeker, but it really would also go with the law because we're doing this and it is encompasses our entire town. And when I sat in on one of the county planning board meetings, a gentleman spoke up at the end and was commenting on the number of solar projects and just projects in general that are impacting our community. One of the things that he posed to the towns and to the county was to consider setting a limit of like tillable acreage that is going to be converted to solar, or like what percentage of the community. We already have 2 projects that are looking in that are one very large and one not as large. Do we want to consider putting in a maximum percentage of our town that could of the tillable acreage or usable solar areas that could be developed into solar facilities?
And Tom West, I believe I sent you an email back. Because I sat in on that same county public hearing or county meeting, of which you gentlemen are both on that panel, on that board. And I believe I had sent you an email requesting that's something that maybe the planning board needs to start looking at as well. Tom West?
Can you repeat that again, Sean?
Well, what Harry was just pointing out, and I was listening in on that county meeting as well, and both you and Wes are members of the county planning board. I sent you guys an email saying that, based on what this gentleman had to say at the county planning board, that's something, so it doesn't go wild and crazy in our town, that maybe that's something that the planning board should start taking a look at, is how we can go about restricting the amount of solar farms going in this town. Set up like only 20% of the town of Barry can have acreage can have solar panels on. I'm talking commercial. I'm not talking
Right.
residential.
Yeah, I did see that email, and I think that's a good point. That zoning change would have to be, again, a recommendation the planning board makes to the town board. So
Right.
we can put that on our agenda for our next meeting and talk about it. It may be something that Labella has some experience with in other towns that somebody else is already wording together to address it.
Okay. So,
And this is Wes again.
go ahead, Wes.
Well, I see that in Batavia, they're running into that problem now with so many solar projects going on. They put a 180-day moratorium on it at the beginning of the month here, so they could reorganize and do something like that. They're looking at putting a limit on acreage or percentage of their tillable acreage in the town of Barry or in the city of Barry. Or
Batavia.
Yeah. I was just wondering if that was something that we could do now with the solar, because that would be another change to the solar law, right? So like, if it was something that we could kind of put in this process, so we're not repeating this again in 6 months or however long.
Yeah, I mean, it certainly could be added. I'm not really sure how you would word it if you're trying to address prime farmland and marginal farmland and also address, you know, a percentage of total farmland in the town. You'd have to word it accordingly to satisfy all three needs. Is that what you're saying?
If it's tillable, you go.
Yeah, I guess I hear what you're saying on that. My concern with that, because that was one of the comments that was brought up after the fact, was, well, you know, producers are going to say, like, I'm not going to use my prime agricultural land to put up solar panels. Like, it doesn't make sense for my business to do that. And that, I get that. And I don't think, you know, I think majority of our agriculturalists and producers, they're not going to put it on their prime land, but that's subjective to each individual producer. So like someone else's worst land or most marginal land soil could be another producer's, you know, better portion, if that makes sense. So I don't know. I agree, but there is, that gets muddy quickly.
I think that we proceed along with the solar law at this time because this is going to take a lot of investigation by the planning board. And like Wes said, the town of Batavia is putting a 6-month moratorium on any more construction or even applications for solar. It's going to take a while for that. So in holding up what we have presently and all the work that the planning board has already done and submitted to us, I don't think that we should hold up this solar law at this time. With the changes we have, that modification, we can address at a later time. We can do the moratoriums, so that gives the planning board plenty of time. But I think we should move along with this present law change. But yes, I believe that the planning board should be investigating that, and it sounds like you gentlemen will be. Anything else with the solar?
Well, I guess I just have one other question for, like, I think that I'm not discrediting all the work that the planning board has done on this. But I think that just in trying to like save time and energy, going through like the seeker, going through the public hearing and all of these other components, you know, we have 2 projects that are currently on the, like, we're currently working with. One of which has already sent in a letter saying that they will abide by what is eventually voted on for this for our proposed law. You know, I guess my concern is like I don't want to. I feel like this is something that we'd be doing twice in. You know, this law was approved in 2019. And we're already redoing it, and then we're going to redo it again. I guess I would just prefer to do it all in one fell swoop. And you know, if we need a full 6 months for moratorium to discuss it, then we need. But if we can see if Lavella has something, or you know, and try and get it done within a couple of months.
Well, we're not voting on this at this next board meeting anyways.
Right, but even just like
it'd be at least a month. So between now and at that time, we could do a check into it, but.
And we wouldn't have to send it to, like, it wouldn't be a significant enough change that we'd have to send it to the county planning board again, or that we'd have to do a different public hearing.
Part that we have done could go to the county planning board. We have our public hearing scheduled at 6 o'clock on the 14th for this solar law change, prior to our board meeting on the 14th at 7 o'clock. And, final change or final vote on this would not occur at the earliest, not until May. Not this month, but not until May's board meeting at the earliest time. So I
Right.
think that at this time,
But my question to you is, if we come up with, like if the planning board is able to meet and discuss, we're able to get some references from other communities or from Labella, and able to, they put in a recommendation to have a verbiage that says, you know, this is what we're comfortable with, this is what we're gonna propose to the town board. They propose that to us. Is that a significant enough change that then we'd have to do another public hearing, another seeker, send it to the county again?
any changes to the law has to go to the county planning board, and we do have to have a public hearing, yes.
So-
Anytime we change anything with any of our laws.
So what I'm proposing is that we postpone the public hearing and ask the planning board, you know, if they, Tom and Wes, do you think that this would be something that would take like a long time, or do you think that it would be able to be done in, you know, a couple of months?
I think it's something that's gonna take some research, Gary, because I'm not sure that there may be some ag and markets consideration. There may be some New York State Public Service Commission considerations. There could be some things related to, what designates prime
Right.
and subprime farmland. That's, somebody's gonna have to provide a definition from somewhere of how you determine that. Is it gonna be off the assessment, or is it gonna be based on soil quality of
Right.
certain type of soil? If we're gonna make that kind of restriction, in my opinion, I think it's gonna take some research.
Okay.
What's your thought, Wes?
I agree with you. I think it's gonna take some research, and it's gonna put some binders on it right now that are unnecessary at this time, in my opinion. We have two applicants. I don't know what the percentage of land is that those two are looking at, but relatively small. So I think this one here is gonna take some time to come up with a percentage. I don't know if anybody really understands, like you said, what definition you put on what type of land in order to get that done. So it would take some time.
Okay.
Certainly a good thought, though, that we should look into.
Very good.
Right.
Okay. Then if we could take a look at the seeker, part one. Lee has filled this out for us because there was so much that had to be filled out. Joke. Because when you go down to number one, does the proposed action only involve the legislative adoption of a plan, local law, ordinance, administrative rule, or regulation? And the answer to that is yes. If yes, attach a narrative description of the intent of the proposed action and the environmental resources that may be affected in the municipality and proceed to part two. Well, that attachment would be the proposed law with the cross-outs and the red highlight. So that's what we'll put together as the attachment to part one of the seeker. Okay? Part two.
Part two or question two?
Part two. Because if you answer yes to part number one in part one, you go right to part two. So in part two, which is the short environmental assessment form, impact assessment. Question number one, will the proposed action create a material conflict with an adopted land use plan or zoning regulations? No or small impact or moderate to large impact? Now here I had marked no or small impact on this.
So because we're not changing,
Remember, this is
the ag,
proposed to the law only. not
right,
everybody.
right. So because our current proposed law already has that these are okay in ag residential areas,
Mhm.
I also agree that it's no or small impact. However, I do think that this is industrial and not agricultural or residential, but I've been outvoted on that before, so I agree with the no.
Okay. Number two, will the proposed action result in a change in the use or intensity of use of land?
Yeah.
Margaret?
Proposed
Proposed at
action
number
change.
two,
Yeah.
will the proposed action result in a change in the use or intensity of use of land? Yes or no?
I think it's gonna change the use of it.
Lynn?
Yeah, I mean,
I agree with all of you. I had yes as well, or moderate to large impact, I should say.
Right.
Okay, will the imposed action impair the character or quality of the existing community?
No,
Lynn?
no,
Margaret?
So I think it depends on how much of our town, like if, I just see like our state is, and now the federal government as well is really incentivizing these types of projects.
Mhm.
And I think that if we give free range, I think we have the potential of it having a pretty, of it
could be very
changing the character.
significant,
quality
yes,
of
but if the
the
planning board does their due diligence with this, looking at a percentage, we can curtail how much of our community does become
Right.
solar.
So could we put yes and then put that we are, our planning board is working on ensuring that,
Nah, no, we can't. It's either no or moderate. No or small impact or moderate to large impact.
well, we're
We
looking
don't-
at this one
we
where
don't
it's
do it
located.
except- huh?
We're looking at this one where it's located. I can't see where it's gonna, quality of the existing community, it's, they're not even gonna know it's back there.
no, this is for the whole town. This is for the law, for our whole town.
Oh,
So right
I'm
now,
sorry.
there's
Okay.
no,
Yeah.
there's no qualifiers. It's any
That's
ag
right.
res
I'm
land in our
sorry,
entire
Carrie.
town.
I agree with you.
But at the present time, right now, when we look at it, is it no to little or moderate to large?
I think that because it opens up the entire town and doesn't put any, it would be the potential for moderate to large is there. I don't know. I guess how do they normally answer that? Like if it's, I'm sure that, I feel like this is a common question with like local laws is like, well, if this goes crazy and everybody decides they want to do it,
Yeah.
how do you, but if it's, only a couple do it, then it won't. So do you go on the assumption that there's going to be a lot, or do you go on the assumption that there's not going to be?
in moderate, what's moderate? What's,
Right. I guess moderate seems like it says moderate / large, so I guess I'd be more inclined to go that way, kind of middle of the road.
Actually needs a third.
Right. I
It
know.
really does.
Let's look
yeah.
at the law itself as the law is written. Based on how the law is written, at this time, the proposed changes at this time, will that action cause impairment to the character or quality of the existing community as our law is and proposed to be?
Well, I can agree with what Terry was saying. At that point, we have no restriction on how big they can put in.
True.
So they could, wipe out a whole section of the town.
But if someone was sitting here on our board right now talking about it, they could just say, so what? Let them cover every single piece of property, all the acreage we have open right now. They could be saying that and they don't care about it. So
And that's why we're
that's the other extreme.
the extreme,
Right.
and that's why we're trying to get someplace in the middle so it
Regulate it.
doesn't make a big impact on our community the way we are today.
So we'll probably say moderate, what you're saying then, right?
I would have to think so. We can,
Yeah,
then we could put, attach our changes that are going in.
Yep.
And hopefully the planning board will come up with some recommendation on the amount of percentages we can.
Yeah, it'd be nice if the county was working on this too. I do think that it's gonna be kind of, everybody's gonna be in the same boat working on this at some point.
What are you, 3 towns gonna be?
Right.
Yeah.
We'll see what the county does do in the future here.
Right.
Okay, then, number 4, will the proposed action have an impact on the environmental characteristics that cause the establishment of a critical environmental area, CEA? So, out of curiosity, I pulled up the DEC because I've read this one before and I've scratched my head afterwards. And then I got thinking about it. Well, this time I decided to bring the answer with me. What is a CEA? They have 4 bullets here. The first one says a feature that is a benefit or threat to human health. Number 2 bullet, an exceptional or unique natural setting. Third bullet, an exceptional or unique social, historic, archaeological, recreational, or educational value. And the 4th bullet, an inherent ecological, geological, or hydrological sensitivity to change that may be adversely affected by any physical disturbance. So, in my mind anyways, by reading what these here for CEAs are, I kind of lean towards the no or small impact.
I agree, because I think that in those, like, that's so specific that if there was a project that was gonna be proposed that was going to impact one of those areas, that would go through the process and we would figure it out at that point in time. But to say that it would, and I don't think that we have a huge amount of those. We have some that we definitely need to protect in our area, but I think that I would agree with no or small.
Tom? Margaret?
Yes, same.
Then, okay. Number 5, will the proposed action result in an adverse change in the existing level of traffic or affect existing infrastructure for mass transit, biking, or walkway?
No,
no.
I don't think
only
so.
during construction.
Yeah, only during, good point. Number 6, will the proposed action cause an increase in the use of energy and it fails to incorporate reasonably available energy conservation or renewable energy opportunities?
No.
Everybody?
No, I don't think so.
Okay. Number 7, will the proposed action impact existing A, public-private water supplies?
No, I don't think so.
No.
Okay. Public-private wastewater treatment utilities? That's a definite no, we don't have one.
Right.
Do we have any private ones?
Well,
Or septic tanks are.
septic
Okay.
tanks would be considered like that, but they're not that close to any of the residential properties. Because a septic tank's gotta be, 25 feet from the house, and then your leach field goes out from that. So none of these are getting that close to any of the homes, at least in the maps that I've looked at.
But we have the setbacks that we have in place should be greater
Yes.
than that.
That'd be
anyway,
great.
Yes.
so we're good there. Okay.
Number 8, will the proposed action impair the character or quality of important historic, archaeological, architectural, or aesthetic resources?
No, I think
I
it's
don't
the
think
same
so.
as the other one.
Number 9, will the proposed action result in an adverse change to natural resources? Examples being wetlands, water bodies, groundwater, air quality, flora, and fauna.
I'd say, again, it's the way that our law is written, it could be, but in those, that would be specific to the project.
That would be,
And
yes.
that would
Yeah.
be, I don't think that I would
And
say
all
no.
the investigations that
Right,
have
and
to.
the requirements that we have
Right.
already in place.
Will the proposed action result in an increase in the potential for erosion, flooding, or drainage problems?
I don't believe so.
So this one I question, just because they cover such a large surface, the solar arrays cover such a large surface area, and that when it rains, they do have to have like that catch basin and stuff, because it lands onto a surface and then runs down, right? And then, so it would change. But again, it depends on, I don't think it doesn't increase, I don't know. From the projects that we've been looking at, I feel like it does have that potential.
For erosion?
Yes.
I wouldn't think the small one, but maybe this great big thing. Gonna put in.
Or flooding?
I guess it could, but I don't.
Or drainage?
I would think more
You don't
drainage
think,
problems.
maybe small impact, I don't know.
It may have a small impact, I would think.
Yeah, you could on some of the drainage or something.
Yeah,
I really.
but I think,
Because
well,
you see
like the
with a
one
bigger
small
area,
project,
it's a
they're
small
talking a
area of-
retention
Water's
pond.
gonna-
Right, go down but it's at more of
I
a
don't know
surface
about
area,
volume.
whereas
unless
you know, like if
unless
you
get a real
look at
I don't
the, like,
know.
you know, when you got a bunch of rain and it's hitting, it's all running down into one area. It's like, you know, where your gutter spouts are, there tends to be erosion there because it's running off your roof into your spouts and then going down into that one area. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It would have to rain really, really hard, I think, to,
I think it would
I mean,
have-
with your gutters, it takes it down to a small space like this.
Right, but
But at least you'd have the whole surface area of the solar.
but you have, so it's gonna be the whole surface area of the solar and then each one lined up, like in rows. And so then you're gonna have the water's gonna go down and then it's going to run, it's gonna compile up, you know, like if it's on a slant or depending on where it is. I guess this one I would be curious to see what other towns have put for that one, if they put, because other
What do
towns
you gotta
have
put?
filled this in.
What's the- You have to say what?
Well, you have to say either it's no or a small impact,
I would have to think it would be small.
or a moderate to large impact. Those are your two options.
I don't think it would be a large.
I don't think
impact.
you'd have a large in it because,
It
when
may
they
have a
construct
small
these
impact.
things, they're gonna have to get rid of that water. They don't want them standing in water either.
Right, and I see what Terry's talking about. I mean, let's have a 6 foot by 6 foot panel. That's blocking a 6 foot by 6 foot area on the ground. Now granted, it's tilted, but all that water that hits that panel is running down.
To
instead of
one
hitting that
small
6 foot
area.
6, it's hitting a much smaller area.
True.
And therefore it becomes quite soggy in that area. Some will seep back through the ground
Mm.
Right.
underneath the panel, but it won't be absorbing as much water as if it was barren. So I see what she's saying as
Mhm,
well, but I tend to agree with you guys that it would be a moderate, or not a moderate, I mean a small
Small,
impact.
I'm sure you're gonna get a little in it someplace.
Yeah,
And again, how much water comes?
Right.
okay.
Right. I mean, we don't normally have a lot of flooding issues,
No.
but I'm just,
Okay, will the proposed action create a hazard to environmental resources or human health?
no, we've hopefully set it up that it won't have.
Exactly. Okay, so we've got 2 moderate to large impacts. Okay, so for part 3, for every question in part 2 that was answered, moderate to large impact may occur, or if there was a need to explain why a particular element of the proposed action may or will not result in a significant adverse environmental impact, please complete part 3. Part 3 should, in sufficient detail, identify the impact, including any measures or design elements that have been included by the, this is going to take a little bit of work. More so than what we want to spend time on right now, plus I'd just soon be looking up on my computer a few things as well.
Yeah, I think it's gonna have to have a little research for
Yeah.
that.
So why don't we, as a team, take a look at this, maybe by Friday, we swap out those ideas so we can put something together. How's that sound?
Okay.
Okay. Well, that was the 2 major things right there to take a look at was having to do with the proposed changes for the local law and doing the seeker. I see we've diminished the numbers on the people on YouTube right now.
Why?
The only thing I plan on sending to the hub, and let me know how this sounds. I'm going to send it to the hub because based on our last board meeting, we had said we would be opening up our meetings once again. And Tom went and walked around in here and sat down, got cozy, different locations. According to Tom, we should be able to accommodate up to 16 people in here.
Is
Versus,
that counting us?
no,
No.
because that would mean we would have to be sitting up here. But remember now that the law has, or the governor has now said that even in school,
I think so.
it's 3
3
feet instead of
feet.
6 feet now. So with that 3-foot compliance, if everybody follows the CDC and the state health requirements, that
And wears
means
a
fully
mask.
covering their face with a mask, nose as well as mouth.
Correct.
Tom feels that we should be able to accommodate up to 16 people in this courtroom, following CDC and the state health recommendations. So I put together here a little short little thing to throw into the hub. The town board of the town of Berry will be opening up its meetings to the public starting April 14th, next week. Accommodations are made for up to 16 people that must follow proper CDC and state health guidelines. You will still be able to watch and comment on the YouTube link posted on the town website. And there is also the ability to listen in by calling 589-5100, push 5, push 4321 pound on your phone.
Do we want to add that there'll be a public hearing at 6 o'clock for the solar law? Like this is the end, because you said it's for meetings, which is right. but
And you
then-
said that's in the garage, correct?
No, that was.
No, it's gonna be in here.
Oh, it is gonna be in
It's
here.
gonna be in here.
Okay.
Now, what if, say, me and my wife came, we could sit next to each other.
Yes.
Yes.
Now, would that still be part of the 16?
We'll take a look at it.
You know, it's gonna be brought up.
Yeah, I know.
The thing of it is, we're gonna look at where the chairs are, and possibility would exist that you may be able to put 2, say, over on this side here, and then get your distance this way.
Okay.
But right now, 16 or
At least 16
14,
individuals.
14 people could, or 16, what they,
16.
16 people could go in here. roughly,
3 feet apart.
well, no, this is 6 foot.
Oh, that's 6 foot apart?
Well,
When I did it, it was, let's
it
say,
wasn't
5
a
or 6. It was, there was distance,
Yeah.
not like you and I.
Oh, okay, well, that's okay.
see with a 6
I've had
foot
my
that I
four
had,
shots.
Me too.
my squares are still on the
Well, at
floor.
least, that's good. I think we should be open to it.
Okay.
Okay,
And it'll be on a first come, first served. We
Yeah.
can't,
Yeah,
yep.
can't do anything else.
The room's only so big.
no reservations.
I'll put in there about the public hearing on at 6 PM and the town board meeting follows at 7. Okay, I'll insert that in there.
Do you also want to just comment that the town hall is open now? Again, is,
Yeah, I'll
Open again.
comment in there. We've been open for quite some time, but
it doesn't say that on the website though. It's, you still get the pop-up that it's closed.
oh, it does?
I think so.
I know a few other towns that are really being cautious and their meetings are strictly phone only and listen in and their doors are locked yet. So,
I got a question.
we're a
Yeah, it
lot
says the
more-
doors-
Nothing to do with
Okay,
anything we've been talking about. The house across from the park,
yeah,
Reverend, he used to be Reverend something.
one of them passed away, the other one's still in a nursing home in the city. I guess the daughter has control of that at this time. I asked Shelley and I haven't followed up with her.
Because there's nobody living.
No,
And
Yes,
the
I saw
barn's
that.
paved in.
that's falling in even more this winter.
Yeah.
Than
Oh,
even
yeah.
more. And I understand there is somebody that's very interested in purchasing that property.
Really?
Yeah,
God bless him.
but, I don't know what the story is. That's why we at first backed off a little bit because thinking, well, maybe there'll be a purchase made and things can be done. But obviously nothing has happened yet, so I'll talk to her about following through and saying, hey, you gotta do something about this.
Yeah.
From what I understand, I guess the children came by and one son walked in there and took the floor.
Oh, I bet.
Said, that's it, I'm not going back in there. That's in the house, not the
Yeah.
barn.
Right, well, the barn, you can't walk in.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, yeah, that is, when you come out of the park, that's an eyesore to look
Yeah,
at.
it
when you
is.
come out of there.
It is.
When it comes to like with the wind, the state issued a conditional permit, which is a 60 days comment period as to auras. Previously, when they looked at this was under our old wind law. And auras had said they were undue burdensome, our law in many places. But I guess with our new law, they're looking at that again, but there is a 60-day comment period that is going on with auras. Lance has gone through the application, both the old application under Article 10, as well as the application under 94C, and compared to our new law, and has made recommendations, suggestions, whatnot, to Dwight. And Dwight's putting together kind of objections or whatever to what Heritage / Apex has their application to ORAS for the 94C. And that will be submitted in the next week or so, I believe. Lance, are you still on? Okay.
Yeah, I'm still here.
I'm sorry.
I'm still here.
I was just talking about the 60-day comment period that ORAS has, and that you've done your due diligence and got all that information that Dwight was putting together a final comments / objection to a number of different things that Apex / heritage in their application process to Juarez.
So we'll be able to, that'll come to us before it gets submitted to OR so that we can look it over and see.
I'm
Because I know
sure
like
that,
there's things like shadow flicker and that in their application, I think there's like 42 homes that are gonna have over 30 hours of shadow flicker and things
and,
like that, that,
and in discussion with Kathy Spencer, well, in discussion with Kathy about this, I think what she wanted was identified where the sensors were located and for what specific turbines. She wanted to know that. Because you got 42, let's say you've got 3 sensors off of one turbine. So then the discussion is the location of that turbine.
right.
So that's what she wants to know is how many sensors per that turbine.
Right.
So that's what she's looking at right now.
So we're gonna get this information before they submit it so that we can all look at it and see if there's additional things that should be, because I understand and agree that they have expertise in their areas, but it's our responsibility to just make sure that the residents are taken care of and that we can.
Now, here's a tower,
Yeah.
and it's gonna make flicker, right?
Yeah.
If, I'm sure there's a way, I don't know. If they move that tower, or instead of having it straight this way, it's tilted, just
Angle
not
it.
tilted, but
No, you can't, doesn't matter, the tower is
Good.
fixed. The nacelle on top that the blades are attached to, that is all controlled by the direction of the wind.
So that
So that-
moves and rotates.
okay.
The very
That
top.
Forget what I-
that flicker's gonna
forget what I-
change on you.
Right,
Okay.
Yeah.
right.
Okay.
Then the wind doesn't come from the same direction
No.
24/7.
That was out of the north yesterday.
Yeah, we have a prevailing location, but occasionally, yeah, it comes different ways. So I'm just.
Yes.
So that's gonna come to us before
Yes.
it gets submitted so that we can review it and discuss it and then.
Yeah, as soon as we get it, as soon as they put together the paperwork, I'll get it out to everybody, yes. Okay, so I just wanted to give you a little update on so far as where we're at with the wind at this time with the state. As I said, Aura's had already said undue burdensome with a number of components of our old law.
Can you send that out to us?
Should have been in the state, you're on the state list.
I'm not. They
You're
don't,
not?
I don't get the ORs. I haven't been able to get any of the ORs stuff. And that's why I'm like asking for it
Okay.
to be sent to all of us.
There's a website for it. I mean,
It's
I think,
still in
Sean,
the
if you don't have it,
DPS.
I have the website where you can just get on and you can see what's there.
It's still under DPS, right? It's like just a case under DPS, but now it's run by ORs.
Yes.
And like anything I get, I did not, I excluded myself from all the there is one area where a lot of the documents are redacted that would get sent out to me, there's certain segments. And I stayed in that group, whereas like Lance and Dwight and Kathy are able, they have the privilege to look at all that kind of information. That's so that I don't send out something in it inadvertently and get myself into trouble. I'll count on their expertise insofar as informing me.
The draft permit is, I think, 56 pages long. It's not too bad, but if anybody needs the website, you should have had a letter from ORAS that said that, that they were issuing a conditional permit, and then about the comment period and when hearings might take place. It was about a 3-page letter.
I'll look that up and see if I can find out, get it sent out to everybody.
I did get that letter. That's not what,
Okay.
but I would like to see about the unduly burdensome aspect.
Well, I think that's right in that application, isn't it?
The draft permit, I do, yeah, I'm curious to see, I was frustrated because the draft permit is pretty much the same thing as the uniform standards. There's very few differences, like nothing that's unique to
I'll stop and see.
our community. It just doesn't seem right. But we can talk about that another time.
Next week, yeah.
Okay. I think that's about it for us, folks.
So next week, at 6 o'clock, we get it, right?
Yep, next week, 6 o'clock, right up here on the bench for the public hearing on the solar law changes.
And is that, and we've got to make sure that that's online, the proposed.
That's already, I've got it already booked in here, so it will be on YouTube. I've already got the link and it's already on our website.
No, I mean, yeah, I know that because I have seen that, which is great. But the actual proposed law so that people can look it over
Yes.
and
Yes,
discuss it before.
yep. Well, with these changes here, I'll make sure Lee has them tomorrow and she'll do. I know that the present one that we just discussed
Is up there.
is
Yeah.
already on there. She already was good and got that on there, but, with these changes we were talking about tonight, we'll make the corrections and I'll have her delete the other one and put the new one up.
And do we have on the agenda for next week the cannabis stuff? Did you sit in on that today?
No, I did not. I was too busy
I wasn't
here with
able to
other
either,
stuff.
so I just did it.
No.
Yeah, I was. That's what I was doing too. So.
No, I have my own personal feelings on that and our dear beloved governor.
Okay.
Okay,
All right.
okay, everybody. Thank you very much. Those that listened in and those that participated on the phone. I appreciate everybody. Take care. Have a good night.
Thank you.
Any of those microphones turned on down there?
Oh, that one was. Sorry.